Welcome to the Power Panel podcast, a show where we follow the leadership journeys of exceptional African women at the helm of public service and civil society. Our question is, how do African women lead and deploy power? I am your host, Ambassador Rachel Omamo, a senior counsel, diplomat and former cabinet minister in Kenya. In November 2018, a slender, elegant woman, resplendent in a white traditional gown, strides confidently into the chambers of the Federal Parliamentary Assembly of Ethiopia. She mounts the podium and a few minutes later, in an assertive yet soft voice, takes the oath of office as Ethiopia's first female Chief Justice and President of the Federal Supreme Court. In this historical moment, she's awash with joyful emotion, but also has one clear objective in mind.
For sure, it is excitement and the burden of the job at the same time. But most importantly, I was already focusing about my responsibility to reinstitute public trust in the judiciary. It was like everything that was going on in my mind is like public trust, because leading judiciary anywhere in any country, in any context is a challenge. But the public trust was at its, I would say, lowest point. So that was all I dreamed of.
Justice Meaza Ashenafi, former Chief Justice of Ethiopia, is a trailblazer. As a leading figure in Ethiopia's women's movement, she has helped advance women's legal and economic rights over decades. She was the founding executive director of the Ethiopian Women Lawyers Association and has fostered financial inclusion of women as a co-founder of ENAT, Ethiopia's first women-focused bank. We retrace the road to her leadership beginning in her childhood.
Yeah, I came from very far away from the center. My town where I was born and grown up is about 800 kilometers from the center, from Addis Ababa. So growing up, we didn't have access to any modern amenities. I have never seen a TV set or running water until I came to join the university when I was 17. But I think to some extent, our communities, our parents were enlightened. They understood the value of education. So there was encouragement from our parents to go to school, to study and be good at our education. Education was my passion, I think, since I was a child. So it's kind of like a joint effort, both of our parents, our communities, as well as I think myself personally. Education is a key. I mean, in general, education, whether it is for boys or girls, education is a key, is a door opener. So I think education gives you the confidence and education gives you the self-belief.
Meaza grows up in Asosa, located in the western part of Ethiopia, near its border with Sudan. She's part of a family of 9 children and loving parents. Looking back, which of her character traits stood out as a child?
I was a kind of child who sort of speaks up when she or he sees something wrong. And not afraid to step ahead and be the first one to take responsibility.
Not only is young Meaza strong-willed and vivacious, she is also a bright and enthusiastic student, progressing quickly through school and jumping a class along the way. At the age of 17, Meaza leaves Asosa to travel to Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, for the first time in her life. She is going to study law at the University of Addis Ababa. This is a great accomplishment for her and her proud family. It is an exhilarating occasion. At university, Meaza finds herself in unfamiliar circumstances, indicative of the fairly low percentage of women students at the Faculty of Law during this period.
I was the only girl in my class of 50 boys. That was, 35 years plus ago. But now, definitely there are more law schools and there are more girls in different law schools. Legal education was very important because as a person trained in law, I'm very much believer in principles. I'm very much believer in equality, and that confidence, that knowledge gave me the power to take action. So education is very important. Of course, later on, also experience and exposure becomes critical.
Unperturbed by her novelty in her class, Meaza graduates well from university and becomes part of the new generation of Ethiopian female lawyers whose impact will later on be felt in the Ethiopian society. Meanwhile, upon entering the job market, a twist of fate opens an opportunity to Meaza.
That's a very interesting story. When I graduated from the law school, that was during the dark time, during the military time. So job assignments were given by the government. So I was assigned to an agency called Agency for Trade Regulation, Trade Control, something like that. And then I was there for about 2.5 years. But that job, the assignment was not very exciting to me because I expected more from life. I expected more from my career. So there was a new policy by the government which says, judges that have been in on the bench without university degree but with experiences should be replaced with younger judges. So I myself and my other colleagues, we took that opportunity and we applied and we became junior judges and so on. So that is how I started my career in the judiciary as a young lawyer.
The judiciary is a fairly closed, rigid, and conservative institution, perhaps more so during Ethiopia's period of military rule under the Derg regime. Meaza has second thoughts.
I didn't continue. I was on the bench only for about 3 or 4 years. Then, because of the reason you just said, I decided to move on. Then, of course, after so many years, I was called back to lead the judiciary.
At this point, what are Meaza's reflections about the role of judges, especially in relation to interacting with ordinary people?
Yes, that is what makes the work of a judge very difficult because judges are very busy and they deal with different files on daily basis and different people and so on. So you might think it is just a profession, just like a medical doctor. I'm sure medical doctors also face a lot of challenge, but not really. Sometimes it could get into you. It could really affect you as a person because people coming to the court, and as you said, especially women, vulnerable people, people who cannot afford to have like the top lawyer and so on, you feel their disadvantage and you sympathize with them. But at the end of the day, as a judge, you will deliver judgment based on the evidence and the argument presented before you. It is always a dilemma. The difficulty can only be understood for judges who are on the bench. And as you said, it is a very rewarding job, and somebody has to do it, but it's a difficult job.
Meaza moves on, seemingly restless, seeking a vocation that speaks to her heart. Her departure from the judiciary coincides with the ongoing constitutional reform process in Ethiopia. She seizes the chance to work as a legal advisor to the chairperson of the Constitutional Commission of the Transitional Government of Ethiopia. It is a thrilling time for reflection on a new chapter for Ethiopia's constitutional order, as well as an ideal environment for learning and intellectual stimulation for Meaza. Not only does she find a first-class mentor, but her work anchors her future engagements as a women's rights crusader.
I was not a senior person when the constitution was drafted. I was not a member of the commission, but as an advisor to the chairperson of the commission, which was a very, experienced leader who has a stature. He was a foreign minister of Ethiopia, ambassador to many important countries, and so on. So he sort of became my mentor, and he encouraged us to research and get exposure on international standards. So we took advantage to sort of understand and make recommendations based on international standards. So given the positive outlook from the leadership of the commission, that recommendation was endorsed. And I think that was a big historical opportunity, because we know the discriminatory provisions in the family law, in the criminal law, land rights, pension law, nationality, you name it. So we made sure that all those discriminatory laws are rectified at the level of the Constitution. So I think, yes, we worked hard for it, but also we had the support of the key decision makers.
At this first signpost, we observe that Meaza's journey to finding her vocation was not linear. In the pursuit of purpose, all experiences are valuable, even if they appear unsatisfactory at the time. They provide lessons that can prove critical in the future. The 1995 Constitution of Ethiopia is adopted by the transitional government on the 8th of December 1994 and comes into force on the 21st of August 1995. It heralds an awakening in Ethiopian society and inspires Meaza and her collaborators to establish the Ethiopian Women Lawyers Association.
The Constitution was a foundation to launch our successive activities, including establishment of the Lawyers Association, demanding amendment of subsidiary laws, and so on. The Constitution was the foundation. We fought for very modern constitutional provisions. We know that once these rights are embedded, provided in the Constitution, then we knew that there is a window, big window of opportunity. So at that time, there were no advocacy women's organizations. We know that there was FIDA Kenya, FIDA Uganda. Even that was information that we got later, because under the military regime, there was no freedom of association, there was no freedom of expression, and we were very much in the dark. But as we get more international exposure, regional exposure, and with the adoption of the Constitution in 1995, we took the critical step to establish the Lawyers Association. And I was fortunate enough to be the founding director of the organization. 8 years on, we worked very successfully towards the amendment of subordinate laws, including the family law, the criminal law, the pension law, and so on, based on the principles of the Constitution. So you're absolutely right. The Constitution is kind of the foundation, and we used that opportunity to cascade down amendment of other laws, and also working for the protection of women's rights by establishing pro bono legal aid and so on.
Meaza finds her vocation.
I was young. I was not even 30 years at that time. And when I look back, in fact, I am surprised myself, because normally that is a time for party, right? But I decided to take this huge responsibility upon myself. And I was single. I used to live in a government apartment, and we sort of converted that apartment into an office. I had an old car, and we used the car to run the affair of the organization. I had an old computer. So that is how it started. And, it is just the motivation. And on the other hand, at that point, I think I sort of discovered who I am. And I understood what I want to do in life. And I think that's the biggest motivation.
Founding leaders either make or break organizations. As the first executive director, what vision did Meaza have for the association? And how did she get people to follow her?
I guess all my colleagues, the 5 or 6 people, and especially my co-founder, we had this shared vision. And, the idea at that time was also very innovative. It was a niche, to use the language of entrepreneurship. It was a niche because there is this enabling legal environment, and now action is required. So the idea is very attractive. And of course, to bring people around your vision, people also have to trust that you will be able to accomplish the task, because nobody normally would like to be associated with failure. But the people also evaluate, and they associate if they see a potential in the project. So, I did what I never believed I could do. So in a way, it's also luck, probably.
In the more open space provided by the new constitution, the Women's Lawyers Association, the first of its kind in Ethiopia, begins to gain traction, igniting new understandings about the place of women in society and challenging age-old norms and traditions. There is power in the actions of these young women lawyers. Does Meaza and her colleagues sense this?
Yeah. So we had 3 important pillars in terms of programs. One is research and legal reform advocacy. The second one is providing pro bono legal service. And the third one is public education. So in the legal aid program, before we send women or guide women or represent women at the court, what we do is we write a letter to the respondent, which is the husband in this case. So unfailingly, the husbands show up. And then later we discovered that they think it is sort of a mandatory, order that they get from our office. Once, when your credibility grows in the society and it is a legal organization, so people think you have all the mandate, all the power. And sometimes when we go to the communities, they say, oh, how come you didn't change this law? Because, this is creating a problem. So they think we could even play the role of parliament. So, as you said, once you're recognized and once you build credibility, the power is really significant.
How do they wield their power?
We used the power for a positive outcome. When we started this organization, there was no word for violence against women. We created word for violence against women. There was no word for sexual harassment in Amharic. So we had to name this, practices, and not only naming them, also they have become part of policy. This language has become also part of the law.
The words that Meaza and her colleagues create to express violence against women is
Yesetoch Tikat,
and for sexual harassment is
Yawasib Tinkosa.
When a social vice is labeled, its characteristics become salient and can therefore be tackled by force of law. There is power in language. It shapes culture and creates new norms. In this regard, Meaza and her colleagues make a truly important contribution to advancing the protection of women in Ethiopia.
So we have, I believe, used a sort of social capital in a very positive and transformative way. I believe so. And also, the feedback that I later started to get from people also shows me that even to this date, whenever I walk into a supermarket or, the clinic, people tell me how inspired they are. It's because of my work, my experience that their daughters or their boys go to the law school and so on. And also, let me make you smile. At one point, I have two daughters, and my older daughter, she was 9 years old at that time. So she's very feisty. So she listens to people whenever they make this comment. And once we came back home and we had some quarrel, she said, oh, mommy, you think you rule the world because people just compliment you everywhere you go. You think you are Oprah. If you leave this country, nobody knows you.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. However, not all is rosy and plain sailing. The association's activism not only rattles the structures of patriarchy in Ethiopia, but brings it into direct confrontation with state power.
In 2003, our organization, was growing, and we were getting endorsement from nationally, internationally. We're getting recognition prizes and so on and so on. So at that point, there was this woman who was attacked by a person who claims to love her. And it was just beyond the normal thing. Even at some point, he shot her, but luckily, the bullet missed her. So, because of that situation, we made sure that her story was televised on, transmitted on national television. So that caused a lot of public uproar. So the minister at that point, the Minister of Justice, that was regulating civil society organizations, called me and they said, I have to retract all my statements and I have to, apologize and so on and so on. And, I said, no, I can't do that. I can't do that because, it's factual and this is evidence and so on. So 1 week after that discussion, our organization was suspended. At that point, I was pregnant with my second daughter. And it is such a dilemma because we were not allowed to serve women who come every day for our service, and our bank account was suspended, and we were stuck. That point was a dilemma because my family members, my friends, everybody was concerned because it's not a joke to be in confrontation with with the government in Africa. So the choice was like, okay, you have to close door and walk away or stay in the fight and take the risk. Huh? So we took the second option, and we decided to take the Minister of Justice to court. And that was unheard of, for the civil society to take a powerful ministry to court. 6 weeks on, we campaigned, we organized meetings and whatnot. So, some reason, I don't know the detail, the minister was removed from his position.
Wow.
So, as you said, it has a price, but we persisted and thank God we prevailed. But it's another story. We could have ended up in prison or something, yeah.
The willingness of these young women lawyers to stand up to state intimidation is remarkable and illustrates their courage and dedication to improving the status of women in Ethiopia. The case Meaza refers to involves the controversial issue of abduction and forced marriage in Ethiopia. It was made into an award-winning film known as Diffret, thereby projecting Meaza and the association into the international limelight. As we take this short power break, we ask that you subscribe to the Power Panel podcast. Let's work together to expand the Power Panel community. Visit our website, birdsongafrica.com, and follow us on social media to plug into the Power Panel network. Email your thoughts to hello@birdsongafrica.com. When we return, we unveil the next stage of this journey. This is the Power Panel podcast. After serving for 8 years as Executive Director of the Ethiopian Women Lawyers Association, and confident that the foundations of the association had been firmly laid, Meaza takes her career to another dimension. She secures a post at the UN Economic Commission for Africa, based in Addis Ababa. Whilst there, a novel idea to empower the women of Ethiopia emerges. With other partners, Meaza is instrumental in setting up ENAT, a women-focused bank.
I was an advisor on gender issues at the Economic Commission for Africa here at the ECA. But the idea of this particular bank was not really designed, or we didn't have any strategic plan, business plan to establish a bank. But we were attending a women's meeting at one of the big hotels, and there is a friend of mine which is in business, and the theme of the meeting that day was the challenge that women entrepreneurs face in terms of business premises. So this lady, she just whispered to me, she said, I don't agree with this topic. She said, if women have money, they can rent a place, business premises, or they can buy land. So the issues should be finance. And I said, okay, let's go out and discuss about this issue. So it started through this very informal conversation. So we continue to talk about it. To be honest with you, it took us about 6 months or so because we were not sure, because establishing a bank is not easy. You have to promote share and you have to raise the required capital. And on the other hand, how the other challenge was, how do we present this issue? Because when we say we want to establish a women's bank, people say, is it microfinance? Is that what you want to do?
It seems that Meaza is not just satisfied with expanding the legal rights of women in Ethiopia. She observes that there is a need to push for women's economic empowerment as well.
Because it's just beyond anybody's imagination that we get up and decide to establish a formal bank. But, we mobilized 12 women and, we found other supporters and, we just pushed the idea, and it took more years than we anticipated, but it worked out finally. And now the bank has 180 branches all over the country.
The creation of ENAT and its subsequent success is extraordinary, exemplifying the great power of a group of visionary African women. Meaza is privileged to serve as the chairperson of the board, forging new frontiers for Ethiopian women once again. Not being a banker by profession, how does she lead?
I am the first woman to chair a bank board ever. So this is about leadership, I think, Ambassador Rachel. This is about, because I can ask you the same question. You were a defense minister. You was a foreign minister. How did you do it? So I think it is about leadership. The good thing, I think what works for me is people trust me. People trust me. One day when we were trying to raise a capital for the bank, we had an open day in one of the buildings, and I met this guy on the stair. He's a lawyer, and he asked me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, we're promoting this bank." And so he said, "Are you part of this?" I said, "Yeah." So, okay, wait. I have some money in the trunk of my car. I will go bring the money in. So when people trust you, you can always mobilize the required skill, the required expertise.
How does Meaza gain this trust?
I think it is the integrity. It is very important for me to do the right thing. And also, also the perception, not only to do the right thing, also to generate the right perception is very important. And that, as you said, is related to integrity. And I think I do it to a fault. And that generates a lot of trust. And yeah.
At our second signpost, we see that Meaza builds institutions and pioneers change. She does so by sensing opportunities, generating trust, and demonstrating integrity to unlock women's collective power. In an almost 360-degree rotation of fate, Meaza surprisingly returns to the judiciary in 2018, this time as Ethiopia's first female Chief Justice, thereby shattering the ultimate glass ceiling in the legal profession. Without doubt, her visibility, character, and track record must have influenced her appointment.
By now, whether it's the government or people, people know me. I more or less grow up in the public eye, and they know about my character, they know about my performance, and they there is this trust, as I said, and this is a very, very formal position in the 70 or 80 years history of the judiciary. Women have never been president, not only of the Supreme Court, even the High Court or First Instance Court. Never. Women were never appointed to leadership because this is a very patriarchal sort of male-dominated area. So with the recommendation of the Prime Minister, the Parliament approved my appointment unanimously. It is amazing. But as I said, people already know me, that they believe I could do my best wherever I am. And most importantly, the integrity, the loyalty plays a big role, I think.
As Chief Justice, Meaza is an outsider, having been a force in civil society, and also an insider, having briefly served as a judge before. Is this diverse experience an impediment or an advantage for her?
I think in most countries, people who lead the judiciary are usually appointed from the judiciary itself, but exceptions are there. They could be appointed from university or some other background. But some people raised that question. Okay, the Chief Justice has established a track record in many other fields, but how is she going to handle the judiciary was a big question. But I think I used it to my advantage, my experience, my communication skill, my relationship with development partners, building the image of the judiciary, fighting for the salary of the judges and improving their working condition, improving the working environment of the judiciary, introducing technology, and so on. All the exposure that you normally don't find in the traditional judicial experience helped me. On the other hand, most of my colleagues, senior management team, they have been in the system for a long time. So we sort of created convergence. Okay, I'm coming from outside with a new lens, and most of my colleagues have been in the system for decades. So we sort of combine this experience, and we manage to create something important in terms of judicial reform.
Wielding immense power as Chief Justice, does Meaza prioritize the status and rights of women in Ethiopia?
Well, when I came back to lead the judiciary after so many years, my experience, not only as a judge, but also as an activist, helped me a lot. Because a good part of my life, I was with my colleagues, established the Women Lawyers Association, and I was leading a very important advocacy organization. So, both working as a judge and then leading a civil society organization sort of gave me the experience and the lens from which I should see the challenges and constraints faced by all court users, but specifically women. That's why, for example, as a president of the Supreme Court, we made a decision, myself and colleagues, of course, under my leadership, we made a decision to establish independent bench for women and children. 9 independent benches we established. We brought to the judiciary women judges. We managed to, of course, it is. It is a position that requires qualification, but we made special efforts to encourage women to attract to the court. And also we designed a special bench book to address violence against women, to assist judges that deal with violence against women, and so on. I'm mentioning this in addition to all the important reform agendas that we implemented. My experience, cumulative experience, also helped me to go beyond my professional mandate and, the main professional responsibility to also take into account the issue of women, the issue of children. So I feel privileged in that regard because I came with a broader background to lead the judiciary.
In undertaking these important reforms, Meaza must also build relationships with the executive and parliament, whilst maintaining the independence of the judiciary.
In terms of our relationship with the parliament, with the executive, to be honest, for the most part of my presidency, it was based on respect. It was based on, diplomatic sort of cordial. We had diplomatic cordial relationship, but whether it's myself or my deputy or other management team, we were very firm when it comes to independence of the judiciary. So we navigated pretty much. This doesn't mean that we always make everybody happy, but we navigated well, and we believe one of our important legacy is the independence of judiciary and the confidence of the judges. And my hope is that this will continue.
From the moment she takes her oath of office, public trust in the judiciary is Meaza's overriding goal. How does she build it?
Yeah, reaching out and building public confidence, is important, but judiciary is a conservative institution. It is a conservative institution. When we joined the judiciary, there was no institutional email address, no social media. Website is not working, nothing. Because part of the problem is also people don't believe that the judge, the judiciary need to communicate. So this was an ongoing discussion for some time, because for example, some judges believe that our role is to receive a case and conduct a trial and give a judgment. We have no business in terms of reaching out or helping people to understand how we function and so on and so on. So it took me some time to sort of convince people about the importance of the judiciary. Yes, we don't have to overdo it. Like, we don't have to be on the TV every day like the executive and so on and so on. But it is very important to help people understand how we function, because, judiciary is a very difficult institution. There are conflicting interests and always exposed to criticism. So exactly because of that, we have to try to explain as much as possible how we work. So I think finally, incrementally, progressively, we got there.
Judges are not immune from the personal travails of public office. In grappling with restoring public trust in the judiciary and simultaneously balancing the convention of restraint that the office of Chief Justice demands, Meaza faces a personal predicament.
I want to share with you my own personal challenge. I was this, as you said, I was just an activist. I was this, outspoken person, always in the media and so on. So now it was time for me to sort of exercise restraint. And, it's for a judge, it's very difficult to comment on a case. And, there are courts, there are norms. But for the ordinary people, they expect me to speak up whenever, let's say, a woman got killed somewhere, or in some community there are violence has occurred, or as you know, the political transition over the past 5-6 years has been very turbulent, and there were crises every time. So they expected, why is not the Chief Justice commenting on this issue? She's no more committed to women's issue and so. But for me, it is unethical. It's unethical because until, investigation is done and the file is referred to a court, I can't comment on a particular case. So that was a dilemma. And explaining this to people was very difficult. And I hope people understand somehow later. It came to understand somehow, but I'm not sure because I get always a negative review because of this.
Despite this dilemma, Meaza's leadership makes unprecedented and tangible differences to the judiciary in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I think the whole environment, I don't know, the air in the compound has changed, whether it's from the flowers to the visiting, foreigners who has never been to the judiciary, or, the independence, the confidence of the judges, and the excitement of the female judges. I think it was just a new culture, a new ethos, but also, orienting the support staff that they have to be sympathetic to clients. So it's very difficult to blame people who really work hard and they have to deal with hundreds, thousands of cases, and to be smiling the whole day. It is a hard job, but nonetheless, I try to encourage them. People come to court not because they want it, it's because they have to. It is somebody going to the hospital, so try to be sympathetic. So this people-centered, conception was also, something new. So I think I am very proud of my time. I'm very proud. Having said that, we still have to do more. My successors have to make more effort. But I think the foundation has been established. And this, I'm not just theorizing. This has been confirmed by two successive surveys. And of course, you can't change the world in 5 years or 4 years, and the context, the whole ecosystem, the issue of resource, the issue of talent, the fact that we are in Africa, third world country, there are so many limitations. What I'm saying is, within that limitation, we have done, I think, what is possible.
Meaza is able to carry out these substantial reforms, even though she's neither overtly aggressive nor brash in her leadership style.
Yeah, I am not only soft-spoken, but I'm also patient. I am, how do I put it? I can accommodate. I like to consult. I am inclusive and so on. And that is really, that helps me. It gives me flexibility. And somehow it worked for me. For example, When I was at the Women Lawyers Association, there was this tough administrator, and she always, challenges me. She said, "Oh, the staff are spoiled because of you." She even says that to me. But I said they are delivering. If I want them to work on Saturday, they do. If I want them to work on Sunday, they do, and that is why we achieved a lot. So it worked for me, but also sometimes exceptionally this could be misunderstood, especially if you're dealing with a not so smart person. They can think they can take advantage of you, and but that is an exception. For me in general, approaching people with respect. For example, that's one of the introductions I made in the court. Judges are very stiff and they don't really speak to support staff or the girl who brings coffee and so on. I even raised about this in a meeting. I say, just say good morning to them. Just have a normal conversation with these people. So I think that works for me, and even in the future, I have no intention to change that.
In 2023, Meaza gracefully resigns from the office of Chief Justice after having served to the best of her ability and leaving behind a distinctive and impressive legacy. Does she regret doing so?
I think two things about me. Most of my career or life, I don't really have like roadmap or strict plan. When I was appointed as a Chief Justice, initially my two girls, they did not understand the significance. But then it was reported on CNN, it was reported on BBC, Washington Post. Samantha Power has, tweeted about it. The U.S. Embassy, wrote about it. They said, "Mommy, is this like a big deal?" I said, "Yeah, it's a big deal." So they said, "How did you make it?" Then I said, "I don't know." So it's like wherever I am, I think I try to do the right thing. Then so life comes to me, and I sort of embrace it and move with it. Similarly, when time also comes for me, for example, to exit from the court, that also is fine. So I had my season. When it is time, I just move on. So I think that's a good approach. I work that way.
Meaza has walked a fascinating path, expertly weaving the central cause of women's rights into all her leadership roles. As she journeyed, what was her support framework?
I think my biggest supporter, my biggest mentor was the person I was referring to, the chairperson of the Constitution Commission. Let his soul rest in peace. He's not alive now. So I think, in a way, he sort of discovered me. So he used to challenge. It was not easy to work for him because his expectation is very high. He's demanding on himself as well as on other people. But he said, "Okay, you can work, and you can, the sky's the limit." And so he was a coach, he was a mentor, and as we started the Women Lawyers Association, and also as we ran the organization, he was my supporter, he was my counsel. And I think I discovered the value of public service, the importance of, service and the challenges that comes with him. I think from this person. And I wish for every young woman to and the man also to have a mentor like that. So they are, of course, friends, supporters, and my husband. To be honest with you, my husband also is a science person. He has nothing to do with law and so on, but he's my supporter. He tells me go for it, so that is also very important. Your partner is also very important in your success.
Having recorded many accomplishments for women and the Ethiopian society, while breaking barriers and receiving many accolades, what is Meaza's view regarding power and leadership? What is her power mantra?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to borrow Judge Jackson's word, persevere. Persevere. The women, whether they are old or young or middle-aged, we just have to persevere because we have important contribution to make in this world.
Leadership can be viewed and experienced as a vocation. In pursuing her inner calling to be of service to women and justice, Meaza leads with grace, integrity, and utmost dedication. In each season of her journey, Meaza has deployed her power to affirm the certainty that justice and equality are incomplete if the rights and needs of women and girls are not recognized, protected, and upheld. She adheres to this truth and perseveres. We thank Honorable Justice Meaza Ashenafi for sharing her inspiring leadership story with us, and we wish her well as she continues her journey. We also thank you most sincerely for listening and look forward to your company on our next episode. This is the Power Panel Podcast.